I have a daughter. Her name is Ava. She is 7 years old, and she calls me Daddy. She has always called me Daddy. The day I found out the truth about who she was, I was standing in a hospital hallway, ready to thank the man who had saved her life, and the world I thought I had built collapsed in about 30 seconds. This is the story of what I found out, and why, knowing everything I know now, I would do it all over again. I need to start before Ava, before the hospital, before the test results that split my life into two halves. I need to start with who I was. My name is Sebastian. I played football through high school and university, not professionally, but seriously enough that it shaped everything: how I spent my time, who I spent it with, and how I saw myself. On the field, I knew exactly who I was. Quarterback, the one who reads the play, the one who decides, the one who takes the hit when it goes wrong. Off the field, I was less certain. I had grown up watching my father love my mother the way some men love, loudly at first, then quietly, then not at all. I told myself I would be different, that when I found the right person, I would be all in. No reservations, no exits. Football gave me two things that mattered: a sense of purpose and Daren. Daren and I met in our first year of university. He played defensive line. I played quarterback. We were opposites on paper and inseparable in practice. He was loud where I was measured, impulsive where I was strategic, the kind of guy who would walk into any room and immediately make it louder and warmer, the kind of guy you want beside you when things get hard. Or so I thought. We called each other brothers, not casually, the way you mean it when you say it, the way that comes with history and trust and the assumption that some things are sacred. And then there was Shirley. Shirley was a cheerleader, and I know how that sounds, but she was more than that. At least, that is what I told myself. She was sharp, funny when she wanted to be, the kind of woman who walked into a room and immediately understood the social architecture of it, who had power, who wanted more. She was also, if I am being honest, the kind of woman who could be cruel. Not openly, subtly, a comment here, a look there, the kind of cruelty that gives itself permission because it never quite crosses a line you can point to. She was cold to people she considered beneath her. She kept score in ways she never acknowledged. She had a way of making you feel like your worth was conditional. I found excuses for all of it. I was good at that. I told myself she was complex, that underneath the sharpness there was something softer, that I was one of the few people who got to see it. Maybe I was, or maybe I just needed to believe that. The important thing you need to know is that Daren knew Shirley before I did. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, gone to the same high school. He introduced us. At the time, that felt like the most natural thing in the world. Your best friend introduces you to the woman you fall in love with. That is a good story. I did not understand then what that history meant, what it had always meant to him. Shirley and I got married when I was 27. The wedding was everything she had always wanted. I made sure of that. Daren was my best man. Of course he was. He gave a speech that made everyone laugh and made me feel like the luckiest man in the room. I think about that speech sometimes, about the way he looked at Shirley when he gave it. I told myself it was warmth, the warmth of an old friend watching someone he cared about get married. I was wrong about what I was seeing. The first 2 years of our marriage were good. Not perfect. Shirley and I argued. She had a sharp tongue, and I had a long fuse, and sometimes those two things work together, and sometimes they do not. But we were building something, and I believed in what we were building. Then we started trying for a baby,
And that is when everything got harder. Month after month, test after test, doctor after doctor. The fertility journey is something people talk about in gentle, careful language. But I will tell you what it actually feels like. It feels like failure. Even when the doctors tell you it is not your fault, even when they say these things take time, it feels like your body is refusing to do the one thing you most need it to do. And it does something to a marriage. It strips away the easy parts, the lightness, the assumption that the future is going to arrive the way you planned it. We stopped talking about it the way we used to. What had started as something we were doing together became something we were each suffering through separately, side by side, but alone.
Shirley took it hard, harder than she showed most people. She had always been the woman who got what she wanted. This was the first thing she could not control, and it broke something in her. Not visibly, but I could feel it. I tried to be what she needed, but I did not always know what that was, and she did not always tell me. Daren was there through all of it. He would come over on the difficult nights, bring food, watch the game with me, talk to Shirley in that easy way he always had with her, the way that went back further than I did, the way that was fluent in her in a way I was still learning. I was grateful. I told him once, "I do not know what I would do without you, man." He just nodded, said, "That is what brothers are for." I believed him. Then one evening, Shirley came to find me in the kitchen. She was holding something, a test. I did not need to ask. Her face told me everything. I cried in the hospital parking lot that night, not from sadness, from relief, from joy so big I did not know what to do with it. We were going to be parents. I called Daren before I called my own mother. He answered on the second ring. I told him. There was a pause, longer than I expected. Then he said, "That is incredible, man. Congratulations." His voice was right. The words were right, but the pause. I filed it away somewhere and did not think about it again. Not for a long time. Ava was born on a Tuesday morning in March. I was there for every second of it. When they placed her in my arms, I understood for the first time what it means when people say, "Your whole world changes in an instant." It is not a metaphor. It is a physiological fact. Something rearranges itself inside you, and the person you were before becomes a version of yourself you can barely remember. I named her Ava. Shirley let me choose. I thought that was a gift. Now I understand it differently. The first year of Ava's life was the fullest year of mine. The midnight feedings, the first smile, the first time she grabbed my finger and held on, the first time she looked at me, really looked at me, like she knew exactly who I was. I taught her to say, "Daddy." I was so proud of that. Her first clear word, "Daddy." I did not know then what it would cost me to hear it later. Around the time Ava turned 1, Daren started pulling away. Not dramatically, not with an argument or an explanation, just gradually. The visits got less frequent, the calls got shorter. When I reached out, the responses came slower. I asked him about it. More than once. He always had a reason. Work was busy. He was seeing someone new. He did not want to be in the way now that I was a dad. That last one is the one I accepted, because it sounded like something a good friend would say. Giving you space, stepping back so you could step into your new role. I missed him. But I respected what I thought he was doing. I did not see it for what it was. He was not giving me space. He was putting distance between himself and what he had done. Ava was 4 years old when she got sick. It started with bruises, small ones at first, the kind children get from playing. But there were too many of them, and they did not fade the way they should have. I took her to the doctor. The doctor sent us to a specialist. The specialist ran tests. Leukemia. I sat in that office, and I heard that word, and I felt the floor disappear under me. Ava was sitting on my lap when the doctor said it. She was playing with the zipper on my jacket, completely unbothered, completely unaware. I held her tighter, and I made a promise to myself in that moment that I would do whatever it took, that I would not let this take her. The treatment started immediately. Chemotherapy, hospital stays, weeks that blurred into each other. There is a specific exhaustion that comes from watching your child fight for her life. It lives in your bones. It does not leave when you sleep. It does not leave when you eat. It just becomes part of you, part of how you move through every day. Shirley and I took shifts. We slept in hospital chairs. We learned a vocabulary we never wanted to learn. For a few months, we were more united than we had been in years, because there was only one thing that mattered: getting Ava through this. The doctors told us she needed a bone marrow donor, a compatible match. Family members were tested first. Shirley and I were both tested. Neither of us was a match. I remember the doctor explaining this to us, how it was not unusual, how they would expand the search, how there was still every reason to be hopeful. I nodded along, but something in the back of my mind filed away the information quietly. Neither parent was a match. I did not follow that thought to its conclusion. Not yet. I was not ready. They expanded the search. Friends, extended family, the donor registry. Weeks passed. Then the hospital called. They had found a match, a compatible donor, someone who had come forward voluntarily. I drove to the hospital, heart full, ready to thank whoever had just saved my daughter's life. I walked through those doors with more gratitude than I had ever felt for another human being. And there he was, Daren, standing in the hallway. He saw me before I saw him. I know that now, because when our eyes met, he was not surprised. I was. And then it all made sense. Every single piece of it, all at once. The pause on the phone when I told him Shirley was pregnant. The way he had looked at her at our wedding. The way he had always been in our home. The way he had pulled away when Ava was born. The way Shirley had never asked why. The fact that neither parent had been a compatible match for their own child. All of it. In one moment, standing in a hospital hallway, looking at my best friend. I could not speak. Daren opened his mouth. I turned around and walked back outside. I sat in my car for 2 hours. I did not call anyone. I did not cry. I just sat there and let the math finish calculating. I thought about Daren at our wedding, the speech he had given, the way he had looked at Shirley when he gave it. The look I had told myself was the warmth of an old friend. I thought about every visit to our home, every dinner, every night he had sat across from me and looked me in the eye and called me brother. I thought about the years of infertility, how present he had been, how available, how Shirley had always seemed calmer after he left, and how I had been grateful for that. I thought about the pause on the phone when I told him she was pregnant. I thought about the name, Ava, how Shirley had let me choose it, how I had thought that was a gift. Then I went home. Shirley was in the kitchen when I walked in. She looked at my face, and she knew. I watched her know. I watched her understand that it was over, that there was no version of this conversation where she came out the other side. I did not shout. I did not break anything. I just asked her, "Is Ava mine?" She started crying before she answered, which was answer enough. She told me everything, or most of everything. The version that centered her own pain. The years of infertility had broken something in her. She had felt like a failure. She had felt invisible. She had felt like the marriage was slipping away even though I had never gone anywhere. Daren had been there, the way he always was. And one night, a moment of weakness she called it, it happened. Once. She said it was only once. I do not know if that is true. I have decided it does not matter. And then she found out she was pregnant, and she did not know. She told herself she did not know. I think she knew. But she was too afraid to lose me, too afraid to face what she had done. So she said nothing. And she sent Daren away, told him to stay out of our lives, told him this was Sebastian's family now. She thought she had handled it. She had not handled anything. She had just buried it. And buried things have a way of coming back. I looked at her for a long time after she finished. There were things I wanted to say, things I had a right to say. But Ava was upstairs, and the walls in that house were thin, and some things do not need to be said out loud to be understood. I asked one more question. Does Ava know? No, she said. Good, I said, and I walked out of the kitchen. I called a lawyer that night. The divorce was not clean. Shirley fought for full custody. She argued that I had no biological claim, that legally I was a stranger to my own daughter. I heard those words in a courtroom and I had to sit very still so I did not fall apart in front of everyone. A stranger. I had been there for every fever, every nightmare, every first. Every single day of Ava's 4 years of life. I had held her through chemotherapy. I had slept in hospital chairs. I had learned to read her moods the way you learn a language, slowly, then all at once. But on paper, I was nobody. The custody battle lasted 8 months. 8 months of depositions and hearings and lawyers saying things about my family in the flat, administrative language of the law. There were days I did not think I would win. Days I lay awake at night imagining Ava waking up in a house without me, wondering where her daddy was. Those nights were the worst of my life. Worse than the hospital hallway. Worse than the 2 hours in my car. Because this was the part where I could lose her. Really lose her. My lawyer argued psychological parenthood. The bond that forms not from biology, but from presence, from consistency, from 4 years of showing up every single day. We brought in testimony, teachers, doctors, people who had watched me parent Ava without ever having a reason to question it. And Ava's own therapist, who told the court that removing me from Ava's life would cause her profound and lasting harm. The judge agreed. I got full custody. I sat in the parking lot after the ruling, and I called my mother. I could not speak for the first 30 seconds. She stayed on the line. Shirley has visitation. She is still her mother. That does not change. Whatever Shirley did to me does not change what she is to Ava. And Ava deserves to know both her parents, even the complicated ones. As for Daren, he reached out once. A long message, explanations, a version of events that somehow made him the victim of his own feelings. He said he had always loved her. Like that explained anything. Like love is a permission slip. I read it, and I did not reply. He is not in Ava's life. That was my decision. Maybe one day she will want to know him, when she is old enough to understand, when she can make that choice for herself. But that day is not today. Ava is 7 now. She is loud and opinionated and certain of herself in a way that makes me proud every single day. She loves football. She made me teach her to throw a spiral. She is better at it than most kids twice her age. She does not know the full story, not yet. One day she will, and I will tell her the truth, all of it. Not to hurt anyone, but because she deserves to know where she comes from, and because she deserves to know that the man who raised her chose her, every single day, without obligation, without biology, just love. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I had known sooner, if I would have done things differently. The honest answer is no. Not because what Shirley and Daren did was acceptable. It was not even close. but because every day I spent not knowing was a day I spent being Ava's father, and I would not trade a single one of those days. Biology did not make me her father. Years of showing up every single day did. And she still calls me Daddy. I will never stop answering. The end.